Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. As you can tell by the title, today we are doing an interview, which is something that I like to do on the channel. I haven't been able to do in a while. Obviously, we are talking to Stella, and Stella is someone that I have obviously made a few videos on, shared her journey, talked about her journey, and shared my thoughts on her journey. And so I was really excited when I reached out and she was down to do an interview or just like a conversation. I don't really like to call these interviews because it feels a little too intense for me, but I was really glad that she was able to sit down and have this conversation. There was a lot of stuff that she shared that I was genuinely like, I didn't know, and she, shed a lot of light on things that I hadn't known before in the past, and she also kind of dropped a little bit of a bomb towards the end of the interview, which I hope that you stick around for that. But yeah, without further ado, enjoy the interview. All right, Stella, thank you so much for coming on my channel, I don't even know what to call this, but thanks for, saying yes to having a conversation. I'm actually genuinely very excited about this.
I'm excited too. And it was very spontaneous, and I really like that. So I couldn't freak out about what was going to happen. I'm just flowing with the experience.
Yeah, so I really like doing these types of, I don't even like to call it an interview, conversations, whatever, but I've just been not in the best place, and so I've just been not doing them, and I kind of had to force myself, had help from my business partner, Rachel, who kind of forced me and be like, you just need to do it. And I was like, all right, well, who would I want to talk with? Like, who have I been who has been interesting to me and I feel like has a story to tell? And then it was obviously you were the person that came up, just because I feel like your story genuinely is just interesting to me, right? As a person, it's just a very interesting story. Clearly interesting to a lot of people because of, all of the subscribers that you have and the people that are just interested in what you've been, I don't want to say going through, but the journey that you've shared, right? On social media, on YouTube. And so I'm really excited to just talk about it and maybe get a little bit more details that maybe you haven't shared, or maybe you already have shared and I just haven't been paying attention enough, which is possible.
I'm really excited to just have this conversation.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing just to kind of get the conversation started is how did you get onto YouTube? What was that journey of being I'm going to record myself and put it out there to whoever ends up watching? What was the journey to that point?
Okay, so I was super type A. I was on track to work for the government in DC. My whole family on my dad's side worked and kind of retired, but they all worked for Pentagon, State Department, these huge governmental facilities. And I was on track to go work for State Department. They, they're quit school, come here, finish school, and we can get you started working. And my parents were like, no. So I was like, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go work for the government. And then I went on vacation to California for the first time, winter of 2015. And my sister's the opposite of me. She's so creative. She's a genius. She's a Pisces. So she's just real creative and real artistic, and it's cool. And she's like, oh, well, do you want to go do a photo shoot? And I was like, well, okay. And so we went, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a place called Encinitas in California. We went to the beach, and she's did this little shot video, maybe a 30-second little video. And I had no idea this was possible. And so we're going back. I'm excited. She's like, oh, well, let me show you iMovie. Let me just show you how to edit this clip. And I was like, what is this? Again, I'm so type A. I just never even considered making a video. And then she was like, well, do you know what a YouTuber is? I was like, well, no. And she's like, oh, you should do it. And I had just started my weight loss journey September of 2015. So December, I was like, well, maybe that's what I'm doing right now in life. Let me just do that. So that's actually how my channel started.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I did not know that.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I privated the videos. I wanted to make them public again. And one night I was going through making them public, and my followers were like, why are you reposting videos? So I stopped because I don't know, maybe there was a glitch, but yeah, that's how my channel started. So I came home and from that trip, and I was like, well, maybe I should give it a shot. It looked easy enough. Found a camera at Best Buy open box for $230. It's the same camera I use today, just upgraded the lens, and started making videos. And I think because I didn't watch YouTubers and I didn't know culture, I learned very quickly, in that season of 2016, it was very curated and very perfect. And I didn't fit that. Again, I'm just discovering my creativity. So I think my superpower has always been that I've been myself, because I didn't have anything to model after, because I didn't watch YouTubers, and I just was always kind of sharing myself. That's how my channel started.
Wow, I had no idea. So you start the channel, you're doing like weight loss content. I'm assuming maybe just like talking about your journey. When did things start kind of like picking up where people were like starting to watch? Like, was there a certain video that, like, for me, I had a video that went viral that really kind of like catapulted me? Did you have any like anything like that?
Yeah, so I ended up moving to LA like that June. So 6 months after I started YouTube, I was like, I'm just gonna move to LA. So I dropped out, moved to LA. And then I was like, well, I'm bored in my weight loss content. I'm bored and it's discouraging when you're not losing weight. I'm like, okay, let's try something else. So then I did the 100 challenge, the 100 whatever challenge was popular. And I did 100 coats of Kylie's lip kits because I was like, well, lip kits are popular. This 100 coat thing's popular. So I did it both. And that was like my first video that went viral. It had like 200,000 views on it overnight. I was like,
Yeah.
so I like that. I don't know. I know I didn't get a lot of subscribers out of that, and I wasn't posting makeup content, so it makes sense. But it was my first realization, like, oh, like if you let your brain think outside the box it's in, you can figure this YouTube thing out. And that's kind of been my philosophy the whole time.
Yeah, it's such a crazy feeling, like when a video like that happens, because it's like, because for me it was a video about like my loose skin, right? And it was like, I just remember like going to sleep and then the next day like seeing that number, because at the time I was like, you know, I had like, I think 3,000 subscribers and my videos would get maybe 500 views, right, over the lifespan. And then like I uploaded this video, I went to sleep, and then I woke up the next day and it was like 30,000 views, and I was like, whoa, like what the heck is going on? And then it was just, it's like you realize it was like this flip switch that like, oh, there's like potential here, you know? I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to become a YouTuber now, but it was just like, whoa, there's this many people commenting all of this stuff. And for me, I was very lucky that video was very positively received, and so it was all people being pretty nice. And so I was like, well, that's all, I mean, I'm a human and it's nice to get compliments. And so I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't even remember when that was. I think that was maybe around the same time, like 2015-ish, I think, was when that video went off, and I had been uploading for only like 6 months at the time, I think.
That's
and
so
really?
Yeah, because I'm like, I was only uploading for 6 months too.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that was a really cool experience. But this isn't about me. So, I could talk about myself all the time because, you know, that's what I'm good at. But so that video kind of, you know, was the jumping off point. Did you kind of decide at that moment, okay, maybe let me switch my content up, or did you just kind of continue? Like, because the thing, and you even said it yourself, right? You didn't get that many subscribers from them. So videos can go viral and that's great, but it's not how you build a channel, and clearly not how you built your channel. So how in your mind would you say that you've been able to build the channel to where it is now? I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but I just kind of want to build, like, what was the foundation for you to make the decisions that you're making now, right?
Okay, so for me, like, I had community from my first weight loss video. So I think it was just adding to that and having the original OG, like, first 10 subscribers transition with me. So instead of like my weight loss being my brand, I unintentionally was making me my brand. So I was taking these same followers from weight loss to Kylie lip kits, and then I would take them to whatever I was doing next. So after that Kylie lip kit video, I just decided to like, that was my first video outside of weight loss. So I already felt free. So I was like, okay, well, what else I could do? I was doing the craziest videos. I was doing slime videos. I was trying fountaining things. Like, I was having so much fun. I was like, okay, this is cool. And I think before moving to LA, I decided that's what I wanted to do, because I'm someone who saw YouTubers after I discovered them. And I was like, oh, well, I can do that. So I think I already knew, like, that's how I was going to work out somehow, some way. I just have a lot of faith in that sense. But the community building interwebbed through all my transitions, I feel like really is what's brought me to where I am today. Because it's kind of like, I've always just, here's my life, enjoy the ride. And I think that's like the core of the people who follow me. Even if, you know, I forget that, you know, people did see me in 2016 when I was fountain nacho cheese in a fountain thing I got off Amazon. Like, I forget people have experienced that with me, but sometimes I wish they would forget, but they don't. So it keeps me grounded, and it keeps me connected. So I'm able to calm down and not be like Stella Williams, and just be like remembering why I'm here, and then like how I'm impacting people's lives. And I think where the switch was for me, I started fashion in 2017. So like a year of doing crazy random videos. And when I first did my first fashion video that like popped off, that was like where a lot of my plus size subscribers came from. And I would not understand when people were like, you've helped me with my confidence, or like, you've helped me love myself more. But I couldn't understand that because that wasn't like my quote unquote purpose at the time. I just, after all these things I was falling into, I fell into fashion. And it took me like a year to really understand that. I think I had a conversation in my DMs with a subscriber, and that's where I was like, whoa, like this is not someone just saying something, like this is like a real person with a real journey. And I've attributed to that self-love journey. And that's where it kind of hit me like, whoa, we got something good here.
I know exactly what you mean with that. Like, I don't know if you struggle with this, but I really struggle with like imposter syndrome. So like I have people almost every day that will message me something similar, right? You've helped me with my journey with weight loss, or like accepting my loose skin. And in the back of my head, every single time I hear that, I'm like, you're just saying that. You're just saying that because you want to be nice. You're probably a nice person, and you decided, I'm going to try and make this person's day by saying this little white lie. And like, that's where my mind goes all the time, right? And so sometimes I'll have those moments. For me, it's been like usually in person, which hasn't happened much recently, but like back in the day, there used to be a lot of, and there still are, I just don't go to them, but like there's fitness expos. And so I would go to them pretty frequently, and I would have conversations with real people in real life. And like, I remember there was times when I would have these conversations and the people would like start crying, and I don't do well with crying. If people watch my videos, they know whenever I see someone crying on a video, I'm like, I can't, okay, we need to skip forward. Like, I just don't do well. So people will be like crying, talking to me, and I'm just like, please stop. But I'm like listening to,
or what is it?
Yeah, I don't handle it well. I think it's from the past and experiences with my parents and stuff, and when crying was around, I don't handle it the best. And so I'm always just like, oh no, stop crying. Like, I would love to hear your story, but please. But like, that was one of the things that made me realize, like, these people that message me, they are real people. And it's really easy to, when you have been doing this especially for a long time, and your audience gets bigger and bigger, it's really easy to forget that, which I would say is a bad thing, but it just comes with the territory. I think it's just a way, as humans, we're not used to interacting with so many people. So it's just a way for us to kind of, just to live, and so that's really interesting. And then, so then the next thing that I kind of had a question about, and if I'm jumping too far, ahead, just let me know. But I remember when I first became like really aware of you was when there was a very viral thing had happened. And I think it was the thing that really made me be like, wow, this person is like, there's realness here. Right. So it was when that picture went like viral, right? Of the, I think you call it, what do you call it? The fupa, or the fupa, right? And like the way that because you made a video talking about it. And I think, I don't know, I'm bad with time, but I think that might have been the first time that I made a video. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember watching that video, and how you handled the situation was like, this is a real person. This isn't just someone saying certain things, right? And so I would just, if you're comfortable sharing that, like what transpired there, because I feel like that's such an important part of, what, like, I don't know who you are. I guess you could say that that's maybe not true. I don't know. But like, at least for me, finding you, it was a really important part there.
I feel like I have to keep it so 100 and honest. And I do believe in God. And I feel like everything happens in perfect timing. This situation with the like front butt photo was a meme that was starting to circulate. But what happened at the same time too is I had dropped my sex series on YouTube, like literally 2 days after that video of me talking about it going viral. So it was all in the same week. All of this was happening. It was so overwhelming because back to what we were talking about earlier, just those videos that randomly go viral. Like, I would always pray, like, I just want 100,000 subscribers. I was sitting at 90,000. And between this viral photo that happened and the sex series in the same week, I remember I posted that video, and then the next morning I was at 200,000, and then 2 days later I was at 300,000. So I was like, I only asked for 10 more thousand,
insane,
and I'm for 200,000 more. And so that period in my life, I I felt a lot of anxiety. I do struggle with anxiety, but I felt like, oh my gosh, no matter how I just got a platform, there's no way that this super meme, I've had memes go viral. I just didn't know what level that one was going to get to. And it reached really, really far. Like I feel like that was my first time too in life where like comedians were reacting to it and just kind of like a different level of attention. And that's how I ended up actually on The Real. I had a friend in LA who produced TV, and she was like, this story is like incredible. Like, we want to share your story and like how you've been dealing with this, because she saw that too within my video. But I feel like that moment in time, I just felt like this is my shot to like use my voice. It didn't feel personal. It felt like back to this community thing. I'm really big in community. Like, I tell my mentees that all the time. I'm like, community is most important, because that's like, why else are you doing this? So I felt like the person in front and like all my subscribers and everyone who's been following me is behind me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see myself in that moment, like the sadness of the picture, like, man, they're talking about me. I think I did for like the first day, and I was open about that in the video too. But then after that, when I saw where it was going, I was like, I don't have time to really deal with that right now, because there's opportunity here to like speak for the people who can't or don't feel like their voice will be heard. So that was really transformative, a really, really transformative time in my life. It changed my career. It changed my financial life. Like, it just changed everything. It changed opportunities for me. And I'm really grateful for it. And I think that that moment, I was able to be so strong in that moment, even because I had something fun going viral too. So it wasn't all this negativity, mm-hmm. right? So because I was able to just kind of keep positive about it and just see the blessings that were coming from it too, I think that added to the narrative. Because if I would have been naturally sad about it and then showing that I was sad about it, like, what does that say for the people I'm trying to speak for? And I think that's why I do believe in divine timing, because if I was dealing with that by itself without anything fun to balance it out, I don't know what that would have done to me. And I'm glad I never have to find out.
Yeah. And I think one thing that is really cool about it is stuff like this goes viral on the internet all the time. And it's really easy, and I'm sure I've been a part of it. Like, it's just part of the internet. It's really easy to like dehumanize the person in the meme, because you're just like, oh, it's just a meme, like, whatever, ha ha ha, it's funny. But then having it be someone that you did have an audience, right? And people, like, maybe not that many people that saw it knew who you were, but there was a good amount of people that saw it, was like, I know who this is. Like, this is a person, this is a person that has
in the meme.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, it's just, I think that that's one of the really awesome parts about it, is that it shows that like, yeah, there's these memes, they go viral. I mean, every day now on the internet, right? But there's always, if there's a person in the meme, there's someone behind that, right? And so it is important to kind of always have that in the back of your mind, like remember that, right? It's easier said than done, I will say.
That felt like a superpower, because it's like, people who are in memes, who get picked on in memes that don't have a voice, it's like, oh, but you don't even know who I am or what I've got going on. So that's why I felt that like, it's go time moment, because what if that happened to a subscriber and their meme and that was their picture of their front going viral, and they're like, but I mean, now in the age of TikTok, I would hope it would go viral, because I feel like that's what the platform's for. But I just feel like it was just like that moment. It was like a moment where it just clicked, like, I'm not going to keep quiet about this. Like, and I had gotten to the point too where I was tired of talking about memes. I was like, I'm not going to talk about them anymore, whatever. But this is the first time it just went to that magnitude. And it's like, I do think about the people who look like me. People tell me all the time, like, you represent a body shape I don't have, or that I do have, that I just don't see. So I don't want to say it's pressure, but I do feel the responsibility for that a lot.
So when you were like making these posts, right? Because like that was your body. So like you'd make posts and that was what your body looked like. So was it like, I have this question, right? Like, was it ever hard for you to feel like just like me posting my body, just posting it, people will say, wow, that's so brave, right? So I asked that because if I ever post a shirtless photo, people are like, well, it's so brave of your loose skin. And I'm like, dude, I am just posting a shirtless photo. And like, it's funny because yes, my body is different, that it's like people are like, wow, you're so brave. You're a beacon of body positivity. And like, I struggle because I have people, sorry, I'm going on a rant, but like I have people that I'll post a picture and maybe I'll even hashtag body positivity or whatever. And then I'll have people like, this is real body positivity. This is what it should be about. I'm like, yo, whoa, I am not trying to make a statement here. I'm just trying to show what I look like, right? So like, sorry, rant, but like, did you ever have any sort of similar feelings to like for yourself at all?
All the time, like still to this day. And it's really interesting because most of my photos stay within my people who follow me. So that's when I kind of know it's kind of going outside my community, when people start being like, you're so brave. Because my girls know, they're like, that's just Stella. That's just what she does. That's who she is. They've kind of come around to it. I think when people are first introduced to you as a creator, they're like, it's like a shock factor. Like I recently had 2 videos go super viral on TikTok this summer, and everyone's like, she's just trying to make a point. And everyone else who doesn't know me was like, this is representation. But I think as people start to follow me, they come to realize that's just me and natural personality, like you in the shirtless photos. It's just who you are. So that calms down a little bit, but definitely deal with that all the time.
And then, okay, so I kind of want to shift gears because I want to talk about the weight gain, I guess, but also like the weight loss and like that whole journey, because again, that's obviously what I've talked about the most on my channel in regards to you. I mean, I guess in regards to anything, right? Weight loss and weight gain is what I talk about on my channel. But so, okay, so now I kind of want to take a step back. So the channel started, it was about wanting to lose weight, right?
Yeah,
and so you were already losing weight. And so that was the start of the channel. And then you got to a point, I know I'm skipping over a lot, but I'm trying to kind of build. So you got to a point where you had decided that you wanted to get a weight loss surgery, right? So like, again, I know there's a lot of time in between there, and feel free to share whatever you want there. But like, you decided that you want to get a weight loss surgery, and I know that was a big decision for you. And so now taking a step back, so what was that journey like, if you want to skip over whatever you want? But I just kind of want to, for people that don't know what that journey was for you, like what was that like for you, and especially being on YouTube as well, like sharing most of it, because you've always been pretty open about everything. So
yeah, so when I started, I stopped. I think once I got out of my bubble, like we talked about, of weight loss, I only didn't stop that. I stopped weight loss too. I think I was like becoming more health conscious because I just moved to California from Central Texas, and that's a big difference. Just in how people eat, I was literally culture shocked. So I kind of just left weight loss by the wayside, but I was really proud at that point because I had lost, so I went from 375.6, and at this time I was like around 340. So no matter what, I always had that under my belt too. I was like, okay, well, I did that. And I kind of used it, I think, as leverage. Like I was very, very clickbaity back in the day, and I'd be like, I'm the wrong kind of plus size. I think like that video, and just, that was where I really started to, I never hated my body, right? Like the weight loss came from a miscarriage I had in 2015. It was in May, and you know, my doctor didn't know why, and no one knew why, and I assumed it was my weight. And so I think I did that to myself, and I think psychologically that messed me up a lot. Even to this day, I'm still trying to work through it, but I always felt so guilty because I didn't, sorry, I know you hate crying, I'm not gonna do it. I didn't know if that was me. And so I had initially lost the weight, and then when I decided to go on YouTube, I, you know, was very open about that. Or I actually wasn't open about it. I kept it close to myself. And then maybe 2017, when I started getting a little bit of followers, I wanted people to know who I was, where I started. And so I would tell people, then finally I made a video about my miscarriage. And then I felt really free because that was like a secret I was holding on to, because not even my OG followers knew why I even had a random weight loss channel that wasn't starting from the beginning of my weight loss. So it was always like a thing. And so I think I changed my conversation. Like one day I want kids. One day I would like that opportunity for myself. And so I think somewhere in there, like the weight loss publicly got lost. I know in 2017, I had started playing with things like keto and like, okay, losing weight. And I'm not really sure why. I think part of it, I do know why. So I was acting at the time too. And at the time, body positivity and any media like that, where I was and how I looked, was not possible. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to lose weight. I think I even made a couple videos like that. Like, I have to be a size 18. I look at those videos now and cringe just because that wasn't necessary. But I think that's part of why I think making videos about your journey is so important too, especially if you want to be a creator, because you can look back and be like, man, if you were just being confident who you were today, back then. I digress. So making videos, I was just struggling to lose weight. I think I had my blood clot. I got a blood clot from a birth control in like 21 days. And at that point, it was kind of like like what's going on? Again, asking my doctor, like, well, how are all these factors like for getting it? They're like, well, it was so it was, I got a blood clot provoked by the birth control. But when I had to see a hematologist after that, and it discovered like I had these like antibodies, but not a syndrome, antiphospholipid antibodies. And I was like, well, what causes that? And he's like, all these factors. And of course, one of them was weight. And so what do? I freak out. I'm like, well, then let me see what I can fix out of that whole list you gave me. Boom, let's work on weight. And so I like spiraled after that, because now it felt like it was no longer like, oh, one day I want kids. Now it's like, oh my gosh, my life feels like it's on the line. And I was struggling a lot because I've never not liked myself. I've always been a bigger girl. I've always, loved myself. Maybe it's a Leo, maybe it's because I've always been fat. I don't know. So it started these thought processes that I was not familiar with, of like these questions I never asked myself. Well, how do I lose weight and how do I still love myself? These things I just never had to consider. It was just a very impactful time. So then that was all 2020. That was rough. And then 2020, I did a reading. My mom is an intuitive medium. I no longer do readings, but she is. And we did a reading on my channel for the new year of 2021. And she's like almost done with her reading. It was like an hour long. And at the end of it, she's like, hey, so I'm getting a message. Like, you're no longer gonna, she's like, I know we've talked about this before, because I considered weight loss surgery one other time. And that was 2017. I don't even know why, but I remember I like prayed about it and I immediately heard no. So I just literally let it go. So my mom was like, we don't talk about this, but I'm getting a message about there's an opportunity for you to be have like weight loss procedure or something that will be very effective. The video's still out there if you want to watch it, but it's like it'll be very successful. That's what that's what my mom read. And I was like, what? I was like, no way. I get off the live with her. I'm like, Mom, I'm not doing that. And then my friend calls me in March, or I call her, it's like March 20 something. And I was like, hey, like just checking on you. She's like, oh, I'm in Mexico. I just got weight loss surgery. And I was like, what? She's like, you have to come here. And I had not even considered it. And it was literally March. I was like, well, man, like I just remember what my mom said back in January. I was like, okay, like I'm that impulsive. And I was like, well, okay. So I prayed about it. And I swear, I was like, well, I don't want to make my appointment soon, but I'll make it for June 1st. So that gives me time to really like not be so impulsive. But still, that's only 2.5 months to consider like a major life-changing surgery. But I kind of felt just like defeated. Like I just had this huge diagnosis the year before, and like now it was no longer cute. Like I just, possibility of something one day. I just felt like something needed to change. And so like I'm like praying about this, and like I've never, if you're spiritual out there, you always hear no a lot, but when you hear yes, it's not that often. So when you hear yes, you got to make sure you're like, but are you sure you mean yes? And I just felt that. And I had one really impactful night of just prayer, and it was just like there was no going back after that. Like it was so clear. It was so clear, like this is what I was supposed to do. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with my life, with my career, whatever, but I do know that for my future, my health, my children's health, like whatever this is going to transform, we're going to do it. And yeah.
So the question that I have is, so you've always been, like you said, it's interesting because you said you've always been pretty confident. You were always, happy with yourself. You loved yourself and all that stuff. Because for me, like I did not like being big. Like I did not like it. I struggled with it my entire life. Like it was something that, like if you were to ask me, literally, if you could have one wish, what would it be? My wish would have been to not be fat anymore, because that was fat my entire life. Like that was.
So that intrigues me though, because I was fat my entire life, and at some point I was just like, well, this is my life. Like I'm 12 years old. I've always been fat. I mean, if you're gonna pick, like, I don't know. I developed this like sense of, I don't know. So it's just interesting to hear that if you were like the same, but it affected you just so differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was just curious, like you loved yourself and like you were confident. What made you want to lose the weight? You know what I'm saying? Because like for me, it was my number one thing that I wanted to do always. Yeah. Because like it felt like, and I would say that this is the wrong type of thinking, but this is just how I felt in the moment. It felt like my weight is the cause of all of my problems and everything will be fixed if I lose it. Not true, okay? For anyone watching, it's not true. But that's how I felt as a teenager, right? Like being overweight my entire life. So what was it Was it just the health aspects that you went through? Because you kind of said like you had tried to lose weight a few times, right? Obviously before you got this surgery. Maybe you don't even have an answer, but it's just very interesting to me that we were very different, I feel like, in how we felt about our weight, but we still ended up losing the weight. Granted, you got the surgery, I didn't, but I really don't think that really even matters. But we both ended up losing the weight. So like, I don't know if you can kind of enlighten me a little bit on that.
No, but okay, so no, my moment of like even considering weight loss because of how I was the miscarriage. Like that was the moment I literally blamed myself for that. And that was the moment where I like considered it and I was like, okay, well, this is what we're doing. I think, you know, through teenage years, I had some issues where I was like, self-image issues. And I think that's why I make a lot of videos now that cater to that, because I remember going through those, but it never resulted in extreme ways to lose weight, or I never really had a phase like that in high school until like I felt like I needed to lose weight in my more recent years of life.
Okay. And so I want to kind of try and bring us up to where kind of we are now. So you end up getting the surgery. I say that because Zoom told me I have 8 minutes left, and I've never seen that message before. Apparently there's a pro version that allows you to record as much as you want.
Yeah, and it's so expensive. I haven't.
I have never even heard of that, so I have to speed this up because I'm poor. I'm just kidding. But like what's that? Is that you can do that? Oh, okay, then perfect. Never mind. Okay, so, but I do want to get into, you know, kind of where we are now. So you end up getting the surgery and you share that with obviously your YouTube channel. This is really, really interesting to me because at least for me, I remember when I first saw that and like you announcing it, I was like, whoa, I would have never thought that. Now, again, I'm just a person that had watched a few of your videos, so I wasn't even someone that watched all of them. So, you know, there might be people that had been watching your videos. They're like, oh, that doesn't seem that out of, you know, character to me. But as someone, and I don't know, maybe I would assume, and I could be wrong, there were probably a lot of people that were caught off guard by that. And on top of that, as someone that makes videos about these types of subjects a lot, I know a lot of people that are in similar positions to you. No one exactly, because everyone is very different. And again, I think because you've been so honest about things, it's helped you. But as far as the response to it, but I have seen a lot of people that have been in similar situations that it went terribly, you know, as far as the response to it. And I feel like for you, it didn't go horribly. I don't know exactly everything that happened with you and your subscribers, but what was that like making that announcement? Just tell me all about that, because that's so interesting to me.
All right, no shade, but I feel like a lot of creators, their personality is being plus size, and that's just a part of who I am. So I was expecting that kind of response too, like, oh my gosh, but I was so blown away by posting that video, like, you know, the moment where you're like, okay, publish now. So I just was so blown away by the support, because a lot of my followers too were from videos that had nothing to do with my size, no plus size hauls and nothing. So it's just like, it opened my eyes to like this box I was putting myself in, and the blowback I was expecting was completely not there. It was so my own insecurity I was projecting on my community, and I felt so relieved, but also like felt like I had internal stuff to work on, because why was I expecting that? I should know my community. Like, we've been together, they're not going to switch up on me now, and they didn't. And they were so supportive. And of course I had the people who were like, and it wasn't even that many, but I did have some people like, you're the face of us. Oh, I had this whole issue on my channel about being the mascot. Some girl was like, you're our mascot. And then under it, like, people went in, they're like, she is no one's plus size mascot. Like, and I had never even thought about myself in that sense. So I think that was the only like thing that happened, but I was just literally blown away by that support. And it just made the whole process easier. I felt like after I posted that, I could breathe. I felt like I wanted to be really sensitive to my followers that are not embarking on a weight loss journey and are heavier. So it was like a minefield for me, because I'm really hypersensitive of the people who support me and just people who may see my video that I represent a part of them. So that was really, and it still is really tricky for me, because sometimes I do want to make update videos, and I just want to remind people, like I've always said on my channel, I'm so much more than my weight. And I really try to allow people the freedom to feel that about themselves. So it is a minefield of like what I did share, how I share, that caused me a lot of grief, but I think I did the best I could in the whole experience. And I'm really, really happy that people just, because I've been so open for years about everything and why exactly I'm doing this, it wasn't like I was just telling a story. It's like you could go back 30 videos ago and see she was talking about this then. Like the authenticity just with my community and that relationship blew me away in that moment where I was like, I'm going to do something that you guys may hate, and they didn't. So.
It's interesting that you say that, right? Like your channel wasn't about your weight, because this is, I say this to people that are on like a weight loss, they want to make a weight loss channel. And I'm always like, you can do whatever you want, but just be very, very, very careful, because if your whole channel is about that, people will hyper focus on that. So if you end up not losing weight for a week or 2 weeks, people are going to literally be mad at you. And then on top of that, if you're not honest, and that's what I always tell people, if you're struggling, you have to say that, because if you don't, people are going to pick up on it. And I'm not saying that people should do this, but I'm just letting you know what I have seen and what will happen. We've seen it with, I'm not going to bring anyone up, but we've seen it with countless people that say, I'm going to lose weight online. And then they're successful for a little bit. And then weight loss is hard. So they struggle, and either, again, like, you go down the road of, do I want to be vulnerable and let people know, hey, I'm struggling, or do I try and hide it, which is understandable, especially if you have hundreds of thousands of people watching your videos and you're like, I want to be the champion for them. It's really hard to be vulnerable about that. But then I've seen people be like, okay, I'm not going to really share it. I'm just going to knuckle down and I'm going to get it done. And then they struggle for a while, and then it's clear that things aren't going the way they want it to, and then that's when people start to turn really, really fast. And this is with either losing weight, gain weight, whatever it is. But when your whole channel is about that, it's just really, really hard to deal with. Like really, really hard to deal with, because people will always be out there saying, I know what's best for this person. And I personally think no one ever does when you are just watching a few videos from a creator. You know, you only know what they are allowing you to know. But it's a minefield if that's the road you want to go down. The next thing that I'm kind of curious about is, so you obviously decided to get this weight loss surgery. You've clearly lost quite a bit of weight. I'm curious about what has that journey been like, and then I guess like once we're kind of getting to where we are now, do you have future plans? Anything that you want to share? Anything like that?
All right, so weight loss. So I got weight loss surgery June 1st of 2021. So it's been over a year. It's been a journey, because I made the decision before I started that I didn't want to follow the post-op diet, which is not recommended. So I'm not recommending that to anyone. I just started struggling with my relationship with food really badly since 2020. Like I mentioned before, like that health scare, like I kind of went balls to the wall, I don't know if I can say that, but just crazy with all these fat diets. I did a water fast, and that was right before my blood clot. Like I was already in this like mindset of like, what's going on? And so I didn't want that relationship. I saw this as an opportunity to like physically restrict myself in my food consumption so I can learn better habits with food and have a healthier relationship just with eating and food and nutrition. I've always been really into nutrition. I just didn't trust myself to follow through with what I know. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like this was a really good opportunity to just have like a physical restriction. And so I did. And so for the journey for me, I'm really, really happy. So my highest weight ever was 375.6, and my lowest weight since surgery has been 250. And I'm really, really happy with just that progress. When I went in for surgery, like my pre-op was 344, so quite almost 100 pounds. And I've been really grateful for that. I think it came with a lot of health goals. I took 6-7 months off YouTube after surgery. It just was crazy. I couldn't work. And I'm grateful every day. And I would think in that time frame, like I physically couldn't work. I can imagine if, I had to, if I had family to support, whatever. So I'm really grateful for that time in life, but it was so challenging mentally. It was so challenging physically. I got my first blood transfusion in August of last year. I had 4 bags of blood. Like, they're like, if you would have came with your hemoglobin 0.2 less, like we would have had to treat you like a car crash victim. I was like, oh my gosh. So just like a lot of things were not going right after surgery, but thankfully I didn't have anything like major happen, like my stomach stitches come out or anything like that. It was just other, but later. So let's talk about like 6 about 6 months after surgery, things calmed down on the like not going right side. And it was just interesting. So like I'm eating real foods again, and like just the mind game the whole surgery was, like I was not expecting that. I was expecting more of like the body image issues, which didn't really start until this year. But during the weight loss process, I was not expecting just the minefield of like, just everything was happening at once. It was so overwhelming. So I lost a lot of weight. And then this year, in the beginning of the year, I realized that my stall was not a stall, and that was just my weight. So I'm like, no, what are we doing here? And I almost reverted back to like old behaviors I had before surgery. I was like, no, like, and I was so grateful I was real with myself. And this is why I tell people to just be honest with yourself. It'll save you so much in the future. Just be honest with yourself. And in January, I sat down with myself and I was honest. I was like, girl, you're about to go to old patterns that you literally got this surgery to fix. You've done therapies. You've rebuilt your relationship with food. Trust that.
This is, so I don't want, I try not to interrupt because people get mad at me, but like that is so important. And like that is for anyone that, you know, is considering the surgery. And I think that, I'm sure you probably had surgery, people tell you that stuff before, but it's like, you have to understand that the surgery is not, it's not a magic bullet. It does help, clearly, or else it wouldn't exist, but it will not solve everything, especially, and like you said, right, once you get to a point where you can't eat food again, like if you've just been like, well, I'm losing weight, a lot of people will lose a lot of weight because it's not because they're doing anything that it's almost like they're not doing anything. It's just the surgery working, you know? It's like, I am losing weight because I physically cannot eat enough food anymore, right? But there will be a point, especially if you continue to eat, that you will be able to eat enough food to not lose weight and then gain the weight. And so it's just so important to have that, to understand that in your mind when you go down that road, because like you said, like it's just, sorry, but it's just so important.
It's okay, but I want to add to that too. And I couldn't understand, because when I was in surgery, my surgery partner at the facility, she was getting a revision, and I was like, well, why would you need a revision? She's like, well, I still have all this weight to lose. I did not understand that until this year. Like, why would you even want to go for a revision? I don't think that's something I'll do, but I see it now. It's so important to fix your relationship with food and your habits. And one thing I actually recently learned is, could be different for people, but something I worked through for myself is like, a lot of like foods, I would be like, those are my trigger foods, I can't have them. And then I realized it was me and things I didn't have worked through that I was like placing in blame of certain foods. And I was like, so.
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to say everyone is capable of having, you know, whatever food, but I do think that we are a lot more capable than we give ourselves credit for. Like, yes, it is very, very hard to have a certain food that you really enjoy, that you feel like you just need to cut out. And I do think that there might be people that disagree with me, but for a season, when you are first losing weight, it is okay to just say, I'm not going to have that, right? Like, there's a lot of people like, oh, it's all about balance. It's all about, and I agree to an extent, but if you are a food addict or someone that has a massive amount of weight to lose, that has clearly, at least in my experience, and a lot of the people I've spoken with, have very, very, very tumultuous relationships with food. It's okay to be like, I'm just not going to have pizza or ice cream, whatever it is, for a season. And I always encourage people to try and incorporate that in, however that might be for you, if that's working on your mental health, if that's working on, you know, why you feel like those foods are triggers. But yeah. I do think that, because I want, like, my goal for people is to be happy and healthy. And I would hate to tell someone, if you want to keep the weight off, you are never allowed to have your favorite foods ever again in your life. Like, that would suck, you know? But I do think that it is okay to feel like I can't have that for a little bit, right? But I do think, you know, try and eventually incorporate it, because who wants to live a life where they're not having their favorite foods, right? And so
for me, I agree to an extent. I would villainize the food if I walked away from it, though. And that was where I missed that concept that you're talking about. So like, once, what was I going to say? So I would villainize it. The biggest thing that helped me, like, since surgery, was realizing that food's not going anywhere. Like, if I do want it and I can have it, cool. Like, it's not going anywhere. I think I used to feel like this. I used to have this like instant gratification thing going on. So just stepping away, or like asking myself, like, in 20 minutes, if you want it, like, well, like, say I am on like healthier eating. I feel like when you step away from the foods that are not the healthiest for you. And sometimes just replacing those with things that you maybe don't want, like cucumbers, and then you're like, oh, you feel so good after you have like a refreshing green something, and then it's like, I don't know, for my brain it like switches something like, oh yeah, no, I actually do enjoy this also.
Yeah.
So it's like not such an extreme level for me now. And I think that's one thing that surgery really helped me with, because I couldn't physically eat so many foods for so long. I was able to understand that those are not the villain, and that if I do want them, I can incorporate them in my diet, and just balance my diet. Like that was always my goal. And so I didn't choose to do the keto diet you're supposed to do after surgery. So my weight loss wasn't comparable to a lot of people. And I do not think it was a magic bullet. I think it was for sure the first year, maybe like the first 8 months of surgery. Yeah. But I do still genuinely believe it's still a tool that works. And like for me now, even though it's not as extreme as the beginning, I'm more grateful for that, because I had so many issues. But I think it still is working, and it is beneficial, and it's not a magic cure-all. I mean, I guess it is if I went back for revision, but it really did give me the actual time in life, instead of battling. Like, I feel like you can learn things about relationships with food, and people tell them to fix it before surgery, but when you physically can't, it just leaves you with nothing to do but ask yourself the real questions, ask yourself what you want out of your own nutrition. And it gave me the freedom to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think like to your point where you said you kind of made the food the villain, I think that's something that a lot of people really do, is like, this is why I don't really like labeling foods as good or bad. They are just food, you know? And like, again, like you said, I think that's a perfect way to explain it, is, you know, having the cucumbers or whatever when maybe you wanted cereal or whatever it might be, right? It's like you have that and you're like, oh no, this is actually also good. It's just different. And I think that's a really important thing that people, it's something that it might take a while to really grasp, especially when you are very, very new to changing everything. Because like for me, when I was at my heaviest, like and I'm kind of curious about you as well and what your kind of relationship with things were. But like for me, I was the person that I did not believe it was possible for me to lose weight. So I didn't even try. Like I tried to lose weight many times, but I was so bad at it. Like I would fail so quickly. Like I couldn't even lose like 10 pounds. Right. And so I had told myself for many, many years, it is impossible for me to lose weight. I don't have a metabolism. I would joke around with my friends and there's just something wrong with me. So it's impossible. So I did whatever I wanted. I ate whatever I wanted, to an extent, because I didn't have much money. But when I did have money, I ate whatever I wanted, and there was it didn't matter. It was just whatever I wanted. You know, fast food, Mexican food. Like I would drink a 2 liter of soda pretty much every day, right? Like there were no limits. I just did whatever I wanted. So I'm kind of curious, like for you, now that you are, you know, you're still on the journey, but you are far in the journey. Have you looked at the habits that you had before versus the habits you have now? And is there any like really stark contrast between the two that you've been like, wow, I didn't realize that the thing I was doing here was really contributing to this issue? And like, you know, like hindsight, kind of 2020 type stuff, anything like that?
I would love to say hindsight, but I don't think it's hindsight.
I
think it's something I'm still working through. Mm-hmm. Like that whole realization about the villainization of food thing, that was 2 weeks ago I learned. So like, I don't think I've gotten to a place now where I've been able to reflect on habits that I had before that I do now. I think, I guess, let me think about that for a second. Like, for instance, like sugars and stuff. It's hard for me to say it's me, because surgery changes your body. So like the way you process sugar after it, like it's disgusting. It doesn't even taste like the dopamine it's supposed to taste like. But it's just, I guess I've been able to slow down my thought and put thought in my food. I guess in times where I really didn't care too in my life, and just growing up in my early 20s, I just didn't care because I wasn't. What am I trying to say? So it's not that I didn't care about weight loss, but in my head I always envisioned myself like the green juice drinking goddess. Like that's always I was, and that wasn't directly correlated to weight. So I feel like now I'm still able to be that person, and I just feel like, and I don't know why. I guess I've never thought about why I never related that to weight, but it didn't. I think I always knew what would make me feel good. And so the things that didn't make me feel good, I feel like I would kind of surrender to sometimes because I didn't know, whatever I was going through emotionally. But I always knew this like person I envisioned myself to be, and it had nothing to do with how I looked. It's just like, how do I want to live and like live my life? So for me now, it's like that time where I can just slow down my thoughts, think about what I'm eating. Like my grocery bill is amazing now. It's like $20 a week. But just, being able to just be more in control of my food. What was the question? Because I had a really good
answer. No, it was just like anything that you've learned from the beginning to where you are now. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like if I would have had the opportunity to slow down my brain, maybe another way without surgery beforehand, and actually be able to slow down, and I still feel the same values I felt before wanting to ever lose weight and like how I envision myself. So I think now it's just in comparison, I'm just living that person. I'm living as the person I always knew I was. And I think now it had nothing to do with the weight loss. It had everything to do with time to just consider the foods I'm buying, consider what I want to go into my body. And I just never felt, even though I did, the mind's a funny thing, I just never felt like I had opportunity to sit down and be like, taking ownership of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any, okay, so this is kind of a question that's a little random, but something that I've noticed again with a lot of people that have lost weight, that especially like that will share their journey online, is a lot of people will start to ask questions and expect the person to have information or like have the answers. Have you felt like people have, because you've lost weight, decided that you are now some sort of like expert on the topic and they will seek out advice from you? Have you had that happen to you at all?
Yeah, but I think that's for like anything. Kind of just, I feel like you put yourself in a place of authority online, and I don't know why it's like that. We're just content creators with our life, but it gives this sense of authority to people who watch us. Like we do have all the answers and we don't. And I think that's why I just try to keep it as real as possible in videos. If I'm really bad at like one-on-one DMing, it gives me anxiety because I feel like I can't respond to everyone. So I usually relate that into a video. And I just try to like let people know that we don't know it all. Even people who think they know it all, they don't know it all. Mm-hmm. So I think the best thing I could do as a creator is share the things that are tough, share the things that work for myself, to give you inspiration to try it, or say, oh, I don't want to do that. Like kind of be an example without being the example. It's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I like that, because it's just something that I've seen and I've noticed and I've dealt with myself, where like people will ask me these like really high level questions like about like training or about like nutrition, and I'm like, yo, I'm not a doctor. The only doctorate I have is in YouTube, okay? And it's not real, right? Like I just want you to understand that. And so I've seen a lot of people that have lost weight, again, like on Instagram, do Q&As, and people asking these questions, and I'm just like, it's a lot of responsibility. And so I was kind of curious if you've dealt with that. Okay, so kind of wrapping this up, because we've been talking for a while, I kind of wanted to know, like, as far as future plans, what have you been dealing with recently? Is there anything that you want to share with people, like kind of just to wrap this up? What's been going on recently, and do you have anything like in the future?
Oh my gosh, yes, because this is where I wanted to interview you and ask you a question.
Oh no.
This loose skin thing for me is a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think in my head, I jumped to, well, maybe I should consider, maybe I should consider surgery. But, I made this whole video asking a lot of questions in the video. I had shared this with John before I came on here, but I was like, I made this video about weight loss surgery or about wanting to get skin removal. My spirit's like, don't post it. And literally the next day, your team reached out to me for this video, and I was like, I can ask him in real life. Mm-hmm. So like, just how you deal with it. Cause I feel like for me, aesthetically, it doesn't bother me much. Like I know you did react to my video about my loose skin, mm-hmm. and it doesn't physically bother me much. I think my boobs is the only thing that really does bother me. But I feel like how to live like with the thing, like the weight. I was talking a lot in that video about like, I feel like my skin just has like this external weight. It feels like I'm carrying around. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a place now where I don't really know how to deal with that. I still have like 60 more pounds I want to lose. And I don't want it to just be like, oh, I got to go get it off. Cause that's like a lot of identity change, but just how you deal with that.
That's a really good question. And so with loose skin, is something that I always say, and I'm sure you give this answer a lot to certain questions, but it depends on the person. Like it really, really does, right? For me, my loose skin really doesn't, there's no physical issues that I have from it, right? I don't get any really like chafing. I don't get any like rashes. I don't have any, like some people will get like neck pain or back pain because of the amount, right? So I would say for me, I've been very lucky in the fact that I haven't had any of those issues because they are very real issues. And I will say, this might sound weird, but this is what I've noticed. It seems like women, and what's new, women have it harder, it feels like, but it seems like women do deal with more of the, like, not just like physical, like looking at the issues, but like the actual physical, like I'm having pain from this, I'm having like rashes and stuff like that. So I'm always like, for me, if it's something you want to do, even if it's only because of aesthetic reasons, you should do it, right? Like you went through this whole journey. But my recommendation, like if someone did, like you asked me for like any sort of advice, is I always say, get to a point, like don't get it before you need to get it. So a lot of people will get the loose skin surgery before they've actually lost all of their weight. I really don't recommend that because your body settles in different weights and you never know where you want to be. You never know. So I always say, wait until you've had the weight off if you can, right? Because there are some people that just, the weight in this loose skin is just too much for them, right? Like physically.
That's how I try to explain it. It feels like an external baggage. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how.
I get it. Like it's a lot. It's like literal baggage, like physically and mentally though, right? It's this ghost. It feels like okay. So this is the way I've explained it before, is like, it feels like you have this chain that is linking you to your former self that you cannot get rid of. There's no cutting it off, right? Unless you literally cut it off, right? And I don't feel that way personally, but I know people that have felt that way. And for me to say, oh, you shouldn't get it, you should be happy with what, that's ridiculous, right? Like if someone wants to get it, you should get it. But I always recommend, as far as having the best experience from, you know, the hundreds of people I feel like I've talked to that have had the surgery, and their advice as well is to wait until you 100% know you want to get it. And then my recommendation, and this is much easier said than done, but is like get to a point where you feel like you've been able to keep the weight off for maybe a year at least, because I have many people that I know that have gotten the loose skin surgery that end up gaining a lot of the weight back, right? And that in and of itself, gaining weight back, it's very normal. But when you get this surgery, they are cutting parts of your body off, and they are cutting parts of your body that will grow fat cells that no longer, the fat cells are gone. And so the way that you gain weight after you get a surgery is very different than how you gained weight before. So if you like, oh, I'm used to, when I start gaining weight, like for me, I gain it in my lower belly and in my like love handle area. That's where I gain a lot of my weight. If I got the surgery to get rid of it, I would start gaining weight in somewhere completely different because I wouldn't have fat cells there to gain the weight in, right? And so it's really, I've talked to a lot of people where it's a really hard realization because one, they're frustrated with themselves that they're gaining weight, but then they are also now in a body that they are very unfamiliar with, right? And so my advice is just be very confident in your ability to keep the weight off. Like you will gain a little bit of weight because everyone does once you get the surgery, because it's a freaking intense surgery. You know, it's an intense surgery, so you're very immobile for a good amount of time. And usually a lot of people that lose a lot of weight, they've become very active. And so the fact that they're not active, it's really hard for them. So, but that's my recommendation, right? Like if you genuinely are considering it, those are what I would tell people, you know, again, as a YouTuber, not a doctor, but like someone that has talked to a lot of people that have had the surgery and have had good results, bad results, middle of the road results. That's what I have, you know, just from what I've seen over the years now. If I were to do it, that's what I would do, right? That would be my plan. Like I'm very confident in the fact that I can keep my weight off, right? It's been 10 years and I haven't really ever had a serious issue with gaining the weight back. So I'm not afraid of that, but I just personally, I don't like surgeries, so I'd rather not. And I don't have those physical, like genuine physical things that are issues, but I also don't have that mental issue to where it's enough for me to want to lose or get rid of it. But I do want to make it very clear, because, and I'm glad that you asked this question, because a lot of people they'll see what I post and they think, oh, he must always be like super happy. And like, no, I have days where it's rough. I have not the best, mental health days or body image days, but the good outweighs the negative to where I haven't decided to want to get the surgery. And I've been honest about this. Like, if I ever do decide to do it, I'll get it. Like, truly. I'm not like, I'll never get it because then everyone will hate me. If people have a problem with me getting the surgery, they can go screw themselves, honestly, in my opinion. Like, whatever. I don't care what they think. But I currently still don't really want it. And then whenever I say that, I just make it clear. If someone is out there that wants to get it, I'm not going to sit here and be like, of course. It's like, dude, do what's best for you. That's okay. So I ranted. I got kind of sweaty there, but yeah.
Okay. I definitely appreciate what you said, because I think just in the beginning of surgery, like my first month, people after surgery, they were like, when are you getting your skin taken off? I was like, wait, what? I just got surgery a month ago. So it's always, people are always curious, and they do ask me, and they're very aware I still have some weight to lose, but they want to know. And, it sucks too, because then you get the comments like, you're going to be no one to mess with when you get surgery. It's like, whoa, it's like, I'm bad now, but it's okay. They'll figure that out in their own time. But I asked that, because I was someone, since I decided to get surgery and be very open about it, I've always said like, oh, after I have kids, right? Like that was the whole purpose. I was like, after I have kids, I'll get it. And then recently I realized how delusional I was about some of the physical like things that were happening because of the skin. I was like, oh my gosh. And then after physical was the mental. So the dissociation of skin to yourself, like that has really been messing with me the last couple of weeks. I just hadn't realized it. And last week I just made the decision like, well, maybe I should start looking into it. So I think that's like on the plan for me. I'm gonna start looking into it. I really don't like, it's a financial responsibility. Like I already went through last year of seeing how when your body changes so fast, the mental, and it's like, do you really want to subject yourself? But I know you hadn't had it. So I was like, well, ask him, like, this is perfect time. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Like I'm always willing to talk about it. Like I think that it's one of those things that even though I'm sure there are people that watch this video, you will talk about it all the time. Even though I talk about it a lot, it's still not something many people talk about. And so I am always willing to, share my knowledge or whatever I know. But I think that if it's something that you want to do and it will, I don't want to say like make you happier, but just again, help with those things that you're going through, I think that anybody should do it. It's just obviously not everyone has the chance to do it. It is very expensive, and then you pretty much have to have someone very close to you that can help you with the recovery, or you're gonna have to have a nurse with you, which again adds to the expense. So it's obviously not like I get frustrated, and I'm sure you've dealt with it already. People think that it's just like, just get the surgery. It's like, do you understand what that means? Like, it's not just like you grab some scissors and you're like, cut, and then you're good to go. It's like, dude, it's a serious surgery that there can be complications. So it's, again, in and of itself, you have to make sure that you're okay with that. But then afterwards, it's a serious deal, right? And like, you are cutting off part of yourself. And I have talked to some people that have been like, I feel like I'm not whole, and again, there's tons of people that are like, it's the best thing I've ever done and I've never been happier, right? So it's, again, like I can never answer the question for someone, but if it's something like you have that thought in your head, you should pursue it just for yourself, right? And see if that's something that you want to do. And I'm sure you've probably given this advice to people yourself, but like, if it's something you want to do and you're thinking, what would other people think? Fuck that, right? Like, who cares? Like, it does not matter. And it's very important that it's like, what other people think shouldn't matter, because you should be doing it for what like you want to do, right? And again, I'm sure you already know that, but like for someone out there might be watching this or might be listening, I think that's advice that I could give on pretty much anything, right? Like if it's something you want to do, at least look into it. Right? It's not going to hurt to look into it and see what's going on.
I agree. That's kind of what my next couple videos are going to be like. I'm just going to look into it. I already said in the first one, I was like, I'm not making any promises or, whatever I decide to do. But I'm like, if I'm going to look into it myself, might as well look into it with you guys. So yeah, I'm a little nervous for that. I really don't want to go through like that mental, like it took me so long to understand that I was still me. And I think when I first went through surgery, I was like expecting to be this totally different person. And the biggest blessing was realizing that I'm still the same person. Mm-hmm. Before, because when I was bigger, I would question these things as I was losing weight, like, am I still that person? Like, do I still have these beliefs? And it felt like a win in my life that I still felt the same way about like my ideologies after losing weight. And it just kind of like validated to myself that everything I do believe in is real to me, and it's not based on the physical and just where I am in life. And that was just really, really important for me, because it helped me like with my message and like things I want to do and communities I want to help, because it just felt like, no, you really do believe that. Like, even if you don't look like that person or have the same struggles that you did then, I mean, the world still sees me as a big girl, so it's not like, life's peaches and rainbows, but it definitely like solidified, like, no, you're doing what's authentic to you. I think that was important.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things that maybe people that might just be listening, at least for me, that might not really understand is like when you have an audience, and I think that it's a good thing, and I see it in you, and I feel like this is something that I do almost too much, but I feel this responsibility to be the best I can be for them, as far as like putting the best content out. My content's not that fancy, but I do what I can, but like trying to do what I can to help as much as I can, but then it turns into I start overthinking these things that if I want to do something, I just do it now. Like, and if people are upset about it, whether it's like dyeing my hair pink, I've had a crazy mullet, I've painted my nails, I have facial piercings, and people are upset about it, but it's like, I wanted to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And it's hard to turn that side of my brain off to where, what are other people going to think? Am I going to disappoint people? I mean, I just try and do what I think is the best for me, and hopefully people will either ride with that or they won't. And if they want to get off, they can get off. You know what I mean? I'm not forcing anyone along on the ride. And that's what I try and tell myself. Again, easier said than done, because I struggle with this a lot, like truly, like I really do. And so this is like stuff that I'm still working on as well. I try and tell myself like, screw what other people think, but it's also easier said than done. You know what I mean? So I kind of have that issue as well.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It's just like when you live authentically, especially online, and just connect with your community, it's like, if I no longer service you, or you no longer get what you need from me, like there are creators that can, and it's no hate. It's not to say I didn't appreciate you while you were here, but it's like someone else may be a better fit to watch. I mean, no one's forcing you to be here. So it's like, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting me. But if I no longer align with your life, then okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have been talking for like an hour and a half. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this stuff, and hopefully I was able to answer your question there at the end, but seriously, thank you so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Can I plug Curveball real quick?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
If anyone is curvier or a bigger girl, it was a store. Curveball's now a publication, just to celebrate creators who just don't feel like they have a voice yet, or just need a push. When I started Curveball in January, we were a boutique, and like we were sending PR packages out to girls, and now those girls are getting like paid collabs from other companies. So like I've seen it work. So we retransitioned October 1st. So whatever we're turning into, I don't know what it's gonna turn into, but I feel the seeds of it working, and I'm very excited. We've seen success. So if anyone's interested in being a creator or just need a little bit of help with that, let me know. You can follow me at the Stella Williams on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube. It's just Stella Williams. So, yeah.
Awesome.